encourage more women to put their names forward. The Barrie Public Library organized a panel discussion, Women in Politics, from Advocacy to Action. Barrie residents will choose their next mayor and city council this October. Nominations are open until August 21st, with election day set for October 26th. Right now, women hold only 3 of the 10 councillor seats on Barrie City Council. Ward 3 councillor Anne-Marie Kungl, Ward 4 councillor Amy Courser, and Ward 10 councillor Bryn Hamilton, alongside Mayor Alex Nuttall and 7 male councillors. But that lineup is already shifting. Recently, Councillor Anne-Marie Kungl announced she will not seek re-election, and Ward 4 councillor Amy Courser says she will move over to run in Ward 3, the seat Kungl is leaving behind. Barrie Library CEO Lauren Jessop led the conversation, joined by 3 panelists: Ward 3 councillor Anne-Marie Kungl, Ward 4 councillor Amy Courser, and Jennifer Armstrong, co-founder of the non-partisan organization Politics for Women. Armstrong is also Honorary Colonel of Canadian Forces based Borden.
So research shows that women often need to be asked several times before they consider running for office, whereas men often, they would more self-identify as ready for that role.
Okay, well, I'll just pass this on to the person that kept nudging me to run for politics, because I have a fantastic group of friends, and I was the one that would never ever run for politics because of my background, and
I'm frustrated about not seeing good public health policy incorporated into the city I live in. I need to get more involved, and I felt a sense of accountability that if I was going to complain about it, I should probably try to do something about it.
One of the biggest barriers keeping women out of politics is the belief that they aren't qualified enough, and the panelists pushed back hard on that.
Like it used to be, you would be like, oh, well, if you want to be a politician, you have to go, take a law degree and go serve as a lawyer for a while, and then eventually you'll get tapped to run. That is so far away from what actually happens nowadays.
Nobody knows what they're doing when they get at that table. Nobody does. So it doesn't matter what background you come from.
But I ran in a by-election, and that election was not in my ward where I live. It was only like half a kilometer away, but you just have to have a why. Why are you running? Why are you running here? How do you relate to the people that live there to represent them well? How available can you be? I am not a mother. I got that question all the time at the door. How can you represent me if you don't have children and the things I care about?
You can borrow mine.
Anytime. But it's about, you're going to get everything under the sun, and so you just have to be comfortable in your own skin.
The panel also tackled why it matters specifically to have more women's voices shaping the discussions that affect everyday life in Barrie.
There is a lot of research that suggests that women do approach conversations differently. There's a greater impression or a greater interest in collaboration. There's a greater interest in consensus building. And that impacts, especially with a small group like a council of Barrie size.
With an election just months away and fewer women than men on council, the panelists close with a challenge to women in the room and to everyone who knows one.
Here's my challenge. If you're thinking of running, ask the questions you need to ask. But if you aren't interested in running, but you see someone that you think would be a really good person in politics, whatever level, ask them to run. Tell them you think they're a really great person to do that.
And the reason why I came tonight is, again, to show that it doesn't matter your background, you absolutely can run for office and you absolutely can win. You do not need to have alphabet soup behind your name. You do not need to have any kind of special background. You just need to be funding. There was 2 people, me and my neighbor, knocked on all the doors, did all the things.
Also in the audience that night was Jada Simpson, a grade 12 student at Innisdale Secondary School who had just wrapped up her own 3-week term as Barrie student mayor. We spoke to her after the event about what brought her there and what she took away from the night.
So I am at the Women in Politics event, and the reason that I am here is because it is very hard for women to get involved in politics. In Barrie, there's only 30% women on council, and I'm very interested in seeing more women come out because, like they were saying, more women need to be here and give their opinion because we all come from different backgrounds, and giving different information will really help us grow as a community. So I did a 3-week term from April 15th to 29th, and honestly what inspired me was just it was someone asking me to do it. It was one of my teachers, and I was in my leadership class, and she approached me and she said that I would be a good fit, and I just applied. I wrote a speech and then I did it in front of my vice principal, and they all thought that I had a lot of passion. And it is true, I do. I really want to work within public service, whether that is being on council or just, working with our local government. It's just something that I've always been passionate about, and I just want to give back to our community in Barrie.
Following is our coverage of the event, an interview with Jada Simpson.
I did a 3-week term from April 15th to 29th, and honestly what inspired me was it was someone asking me to do it. It was one of my teachers, and I was in my leadership class, and she approached me and she said that I would be a good fit, and I just applied. I wrote a speech and then I did it in front of my vice principal, and they all thought that I had a lot of passion. And it is true, I do. I really want to work within public service, whether that is being on council or just, working with our local government. It's just something that I've always been passionate about, and I just want to give back to our community in Barrie. I really learned compassion and how to kind of communicate with other people. I used to be very, very scared of public speaking, but honestly, when I did my speech, it all went away because it was authentic. When I saw the way that Mayor Nuttall and Deputy Mayor Thompson really cared and were really passionate about Barrie and helping everyone in the community, I just knew that's something that I wanted to do. So when I went up there and was authentic, all my worries went away, and I just cared about helping other students that maybe want to get involved as well, and I just wanted to kind of give back. So I am at the Women in Politics event, and the reason that I am here is because it is very hard for women to get involved in politics. In Barrie, there's only 30% women on council, and I'm very interested in seeing more women come out because, like they were saying, more women need to be here and give their opinion because we all come from different backgrounds, and giving different information will really help us grow as a community. I am very passionate about affordability and the housing crisis as well. I am in a law class right now, and that's kind of my main focus. I really want to help the city of Barrie downtown area, because last night at council that is something that they were speaking about, and affordability is very big right now, and it would really help if we could all come together as a community and give back. I donate to food banks, I advocate for my school, and it is something that I do feel very deeply about. My advice for other women, young women that want to do what I did as student mayor, would just get involved. Like they were saying tonight, if you see something, just say something. It really does go a long way. And I came to this event not expecting to get interviewed, and you approached me, and that really made me happy because I do want to spread the message of just, giving back and speaking to others who are interested as well.
Hey, this is Women in Politics, and I'm Matt, so I can get off the stage as quick as possible. But I do just want to kind of give an introduction, say hello, thank you for coming. My name is Luke, I'm the Community Engagement Manager. So this event came out of a strategic goal of the library to build more civic engagement in the community, and that can take many forms, as we'll hear tonight, and also some discussions we were having in March around International Women's Day. So hence, here tonight we've got Women in Politics, from Advocacy to Action. And we do have some city councilors, some current city councilors with us tonight, and I'll introduce them shortly. But the goal is really to encourage participation in your community in whatever form suits you, whether that be participation on the board, or volunteering at your school or church, or yes, running for city council if that suits you as well. So just keep in mind, tonight's discussion, it isn't about federal politics, liberal, conservative party politics, shrinking the federal deficit, although you're welcome to go there if that's what you want. But it's grounded in local community building, and particularly through the stories and experiences of our 4 female guests tonight, including Lauren in the mix here. So our guests here, who we have, and you'll learn more about them as the night goes on through their own stories. Or Jessop, our CEO of Barrie Public Library. We have Honorary Kungl, current Ward 3 Councillor, Barrie City Council. We have Councillor Courser, Ward 4 Councillor on Barrie City Council and member of the Library Board. And Jennifer Armstrong, co-founder of politicsforwomen.ca, which is a non-partisan organization that helps women get involved in politics through education, encouragement, and engagement. So thank you all, I guess, for coming. We hope to have some time for audience questions at the end. We are going to do them on our question sheets just to save some time and to kind of streamline things if everyone has similar questions. So we'll try and capture some themes and have some of our participants answer them at the end of the night. So with around 10-15 minutes left, if you do have questions written down, pass them to our volunteers, myself, and then we'll try and capture as many kind of the themes in those questions as possible, okay? And with that, I'm going to carry away and turn it over to Lauren.
Nice. Well, thank you, and thanks everybody for coming. Like, it's nice to see such a good turnout to an event like this. I think we've got some good weather. People finally want to come out and enjoy things. So to get started, why don't you all tell us a little bit more about your professional background and how this connects with your current roles?
Currently, I hold the privileged position as CEO of the Alzheimer's Society of Simcoe County. So our main office is here in Barrie. And with opportunities, my background is more in public health, physical education. And I moved into public policy and through a passion for kind of health promotion and disease prevention, moved into the health system. So I've been able to stay there, embedded in local not-for-profits. And then through City Council, I get to sit on a couple of different boards. And so one is being the board chair of our health unit locally.
Nice, thank you. Amy?
Well, it's a really good choice as to, because it couldn't be any more opposite. I have a very diverse background. I always joke that I've actually worked at the dollar store, and I've been head of marketing for an engineering company for Canada. Most of my background is very blue collar, factory work, construction work is my majority of my background, and I do not have higher education. So that's and just the opposite, right?
Yeah.
I got involved in politics in school. I got really involved in OAC politics. I'm dating myself, grade 13, back when I had it. I had a fantastic teacher who really got us engaged and understood the sort of building blocks of democracy and politics, and I followed that all the way through my undergrad and into a master's degree in international relations. Spent some time representing Canada as a diplomat, and then moved to Barrie shortly thereafter, and started talking to people about politics and realized that a lot of people had a lot of different questions about how things worked and how they didn't work and why they didn't work. And there really wasn't a lot of opportunity for an adult to go and find this information without having to go through, either going back to school to take courses or trying to find out, through different parties which put their own spin on things. So decided I would put together a little website and started doing some workshops. I've spoken at the library a couple of times and just kind of get my background and my education and put it to work for people who are trying to get involved.
Nice. Thanks. Thanks for setting that context. So we did a little bit of research about women in politics, thanks to your website too, for submitting. So research shows that women often need to be asked several times before they consider running for office, whereas men often, they would more self-identify as ready for that role. Did you, feel free anyone to answer, did you have a nudge, and then how can we as a community get better at asking women to lead?
Okay, well, I'll just pass this on to the person that kept nudging me to run for politics, because I have a fantastic group of friends, and I was the one that would never ever run for politics because of my background, and I never thought it was a role that I could fit into, and thankfully my friends, including the fantastic Jennifer Armstrong, nudged and nudged and nudged until I finally threw my hat in the ring.
And look where you are now.
Yeah, surprised. No one's more surprised than I am.
I was not nudged, and I don't come from a heavy political interest or background, or I'll say grooming, or appetite for it. I have a habit of blowing up my life. And so, if my husband was here, he would tell you that one day I came home from work and I just said, I'm done, I'm leaving government, I'm too far from the things I care about, I'm frustrated about not seeing good public health policy incorporated into the city I live in, I need to get more involved, and I felt a sense of accountability that if I was going to complain about it, I should probably try to do something about it. So I basically said, this is what I'm going to do, and I was probably more persuaded, are you sure? And other kind of taglines around that. So, but I have actually tried to promote a lot of women into politics. I can see how you do need to re-enter the conversation multiple times, because I find there is an area of ambiguity. And so I actually got really fortunate, because the more I talked about my intention, the less people thought it was a crazy idea,
Right.
and the more people actually started to see me in that and said, actually, let's have a conversation. And doors just started opening, because I was at that kind of pre-contemplation phase into activation, and I think maybe I'll just run and see what happens. And try and get involved, and if I get in, great. If I don't, that's fine, because I didn't see it as a lost cause. And then I sat in a room with Jen, and part of her conversation about what it would be, what is municipal versus provincial and federal, and midway through that afternoon, she said, who's thinking about actually running? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in, I'm all in, let's do this. So I think there's different ways that conversation can come about. And so just, if a woman approaches you and is thinking about it, get curious. You might have a different value system about doing that and what it takes, or how you've seen people live well in that space or not, or what it takes to kind of, spend 4 years in that commitment. But I would say stay curious, and then help a woman to have, or a man, but help a woman to have more of a conversation about how could I help you? What could this look like? What role can I play for you if you're serious about this?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you don't have to have that political background. That education is not necessary. You just have to have a willingness to learn. And
I think that's the most important part, is that there are as many roads, there are as many paths to getting into government and getting into politics as there are people. There's no one, like it used to be, you would be like, oh, well, if you want to be a politician, you have to go, take a law degree and go serve as a lawyer for a while, and then eventually you'll get tapped to run. That is so far away from what actually happens nowadays. I think we're better for it. Right? The wider variety of backgrounds, the wider variety of experiences we have at the table makes for better decisions.
I always say, if I can, that if you don't think you should be there, then maybe you should be. Because there's so many people that come from, that sit at the table, who come from a top-down kind of bureaucratic or high position, that when you don't have people on the opposite side of the spectrum, then you're missing a huge part of that conversation of lived experience, of things that people have had struggles with, or anything else that might be missed by people who have not had those struggles before. So you need to have a voice from everybody. So you don't need to have, if the interest of running is enough.
Yeah.
You don't need to have any kind of special education, as we were saying before. As we were discussing before, it's like nobody knows what they're doing when they get at that table. Like, nobody does. So you come, it doesn't matter what background you come from. Like, you sit down, like, this person knows all about policy and everything. And do you remember, what was it?
Policy.
It's a serious learning curve.
Yeah.
To anyone. It doesn't matter your background.
But you've got a team around you. Like,
Yes.
when you actually think
Yep.
about potentially entering a system or a structure, the city of Barrie is a huge corporation,
Yes.
and you are surrounded
Yes.
by experts in their fields, right? So You don't need to pretend to be an expert.
yeah.
You need to know how to be curious, how to be held accountable to going in prepared. And
ask the right questions.
it's amazing what you'll learn, right? And so, I mean, even as a female leader in this community and as a service provider, right? Like you feel, you know, city council about questions we ask in areas of growth. When you're starting a new term, it's a whole different team. And so,
I mean, and like as I run the library, I don't have to know everything either, right? I have a whole team of people behind me that are, you know, skilled in finance and HR and all of those things. So it's the same thing. You just have to realize that you have that team behind you, and you can get the questions answered, and
I
move
see
along.
it as service, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
you can be called to jury duty. You could be in a position of making a massive decision that impacts someone's
Good
life
comparison.
with no preparation in a very short period of time. Your community
Absolutely.
will wrap around you as a corporation of staff, your clerk in the legislative office, your team of other councillors and the mayor. So I think it's about, you know, don't create your own ceiling and enjoy getting, you know, I've enjoyed learning more about myself through this and stretching, you know, my knowledge base, but also assumptions I make. And it's a complex system as a city. And so it's kind of exciting because no day is the same. Yeah.
Never boring.
Yeah, and I always like, because the budget and zoning and all these bylaws and all these crazy things, it's like you think that you need to know anything about this. I stepped into the role and I always joke with staff, okay, get your construction paper and your crayons out and come explain this to me. And they do, and they do a fantastic job of it. You just need to ask, because that's what they're there for. You're not going to be an expert in water systems, you're not going to be expert in zoning and city planning. Who is? All these different things that make the corporation of the city of Barrie, no one is an expert in everything. So never come to the table thinking that you need to be, because you're learning constantly. I'm learning every day. I've been in office for 4 years now. Every day I'm learning something new and didn't know. Oh, really? And you go, that's why. And it opens up a whole new conversation, and you'll never know everything, but you'll always be learning.
So this is a good segue into my next question. What skill did you bring to the role that you actually found was the most surprising thing that actually made you a better counselor?
Empathy and I think an ability to collaborate with different personalities, different communication styles, right? So like any of you sitting in the room have transferable skills. And so I think the biggest piece was I didn't come with an agenda, like a one item advocacy piece that I looked at it as service. And so if I could contribute in a meaningful way to my city, then it was really about an election campaign. It's its own beast, right? Knocking on doors, hearing about what matters. Once you're in on council, you now have a new team that you don't get to select. And so it's learning about each other's values, intentions, so you understand when you're communicating on complicated matters and you have very limited time maybe to prepare or connect or how we talk about things, you can actually understand the person behind how they're framing their position. And so I think the biggest piece is, you know, everyone is human and you have to kind of come to the table knowing that you don't have to agree to make progress, but you can have really great dialogue and discussion and find your path of collaboration without compromising your integrity.
Yeah, that's great. Did you want to add anything, like any skills you think people should have when they come into a role like this?
No.
If any?
I think, I mean, as we've already discussed, like there's no one particular thing that you need to have in order to be a successful counselor, I don't think. I think whatever you bring to the table, you can leverage to be a good counselor. And so whatever you bring to the table will make you unique and special and a good counselor in your own way. And that's the best way for you to be a good counselor. I don't think trying to mimic somebody else's style or copy someone else's approach that's going to render you with a lack of authenticity, I think. And that's, everyone here has a particular skill set, and whatever you bring to the table will be what is needed and will add to the communal group that is together trying to guide and make decisions on behalf of an entire city.
Yeah.
but I say like I always just fly my neurodiverse flag and say that one thing that I think makes me kind of effective in my role is the authenticity. What you see is what you get. And if I don't know something, I'll say it. She sits next to me at council, so
So she hears a lot of.
Yeah, she knows. She's laughing. So anything that I will always give you my honest opinion, and I think that's needed because a lot of times you see politics and the big news and everything else. There's somebody talking and spieling like all those canned responses and big words and sounding important, and that is definitely not me. And I think it's important that because you need to be able to relate to people. And I think relating to people is a huge thing, or understanding or empathy or seeing things from other people's lens and how they live their lives, and maybe recognizing, like we were discussing before, about sidewalk clearing for a woman pushing a baby stroller. I've seen that when I've been taking the bus. So I see that and I recognize it when I'm sitting at the table. There's just different things. Your background, no matter where you come from, I don't want anyone to think that they can't come to this table because they don't have something that they need for it. Because that's the wrong thing to think.
Yeah. Am I cutting you off?
No, go ahead.
I mean, if you check your ego at the door, right?
Oops.
So if you really, you're a resident of the city of Barrie, you deserve to be at the table, right? That is your table. It should be, for, your community and your residents. So, you've got two hats you're kind of wearing, right? If you can check your self-interest at the door, it's your constituents in the ward that you're representing who voted you in. And then there's a lot that's happening around how decisions impact the city as a whole. And you've got to balance sometimes those competing interests or very loud voices who have an interest and might lobby you on things, right? And so it's great to see residents activated. And so sitting at the table, I'm just one of many neighbors. I'm not elevated from a point of privilege around deserving to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I hold a position that I need to respect around how that impacts people and my accountability. But to run for council, those doors should only and ever be open.
Yeah, for anyone.
So the next question is around that. So you see those neighbors everywhere, all through the city, in your neighborhood, when you're walking your dog. How do you manage that sort of 24/7 accountability when you're grocery shopping? And also still like maintain your private like family life. How do you manage that?
Depends on what I'm purchasing at the grocery store.
Yeah. Do you go out of town for certain things? Or
Don't look at me, don't look at me. Yeah. But you're human, right? So, you're in community. And so I think if we think about the sense of community, then it should be joyful. It should be where people know you. It should be, right, where you feel connected. But when I reflect on that question, I think about things in two ways. I don't live loud online, right? So kind of some things I'll post to share information, but I'm not going to start a conversation that's not fair around starting an engagement that I don't intend to be able to follow through in a meaningful way. So online is not a great place for discourse. It's a great place sometimes for sharing information. So that can be a little bit of a trap door, I would say, where good intentions start spiraling and then you start broadening a community that's not even in your ward or might not even be impacted. And so
not even in
Or
your
in
city.
Barrie. I was going to say.
Not even in your city.
Yeah. So, I mean, it attracts different pieces. So I think, you don't have to be everything to everyone. You're not going to make everybody happy.
Never.
But for me, I think I've always felt strongly about standing on my principles. And so if I'm not going to vote in a particular way for a motion, I'll actually share why. And then people understand, at least hopefully they've seen I've considered it, I've debated it, and I understand the positive and negative consequences. And then we move on, because you can only do your best in that moment of time with the information you have. And then outside of that, most people don't know that you don't have to live in your ward to run in your ward. And so please pay attention to that. So I ran in a by-election. I'll be 7 years this November out of 8, out of 2 terms. But I ran in a by-election, and that election was not in my ward where I live. It was only like half a kilometer away, but you just have to have a why. Why are you running? Why are you running here? How do you relate to the people that live there to represent them well? How available can you be? I am not a mother. I got that question all the time at the door. How can you represent me if you don't have children and the things I care about kids? But it's about, you know, you're going to get everything under the sun.
Yeah.
And so you just have to be comfortable in your own skin or try it on. And you know what? Then you just go to the next door. And so you will meet people that start to follow you and why you're running, and you will inspire people that you, like I didn't even know. And I lost that election, which is fine, right? But I'm running in an area that helps me to kind of be true to what my intentions are. Why would I run in this community? And so I think because I currently don't live in the ward that I'm elected in, I don't have the pressure of my direct neighbors saying, when are you going to fix that pothole? Or could you do something about the parking on the road?
Sure.
And right?
A little bit more distance.
So it's a little bit of a buffer, but you know, I'm not far removed that, you know, the ward I am running in is where I've, you know, worked and has my doctor and my, you know, my legion and my, right? Like you live in space and you're not confined to just a neighborhood. So yeah, for sure.
I live outside of my ward too. I always joke, I can go to the end of my driveway and see my ward. But if you want to complain to me about my neighbors, want to complain to me, I send them to Councillor Robert Thompson, Deputy Mayor of Yeah, that's who I send. And when you go to the grocery store, honestly, not too many people recognize you. Like, I don't find that I have people coming out of the woodwork saying, "Oh, you're a city councillor. Why did you do this?" or whatever. I don't get a lot of
maybe
people.
Barrie's big enough that that doesn't happen
And
so often.
having been around a lot of politicians over the last 10 to 15 years now, I think I've been amazed by how respectful generally Barrieites are.
Oh yeah,
In that, like, because I've walked behind like councillors who are walking ahead of me or whoever is on council, and I've watched people like elbow each other. That's so. Oh my God, that's Amy Courser. Oh my God, did you see them? They're over there. And they don't say a word. They don't go up to them. They don't ask any questions. They know who you are. Oh my God. But there's the quiet stare, you know, or there's that questioning. I know you from someplace. Where do I know you from? But I
so
think
you need to be oblivious like me, and you'll just be comfortable all the time.
But that's the piece of they don't come up in, like, if you're there with your kid trying to do something, or you're out for dinner with your husband or whatever, and you're having an obviously private time, it is rare that someone comes up and goes, "Hey, why aren't my potholes fixed?" or "Why did my taxes go up?" or whatever the question is. It is rare, and
That's good. Most people are polite enough to not do that.
Yeah.
Now on the phone calls, that's and emails, that's different. But in person, it's.
It is very, like, some people are like, do you actually love it? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Because, like, my residents people will be passionate. By the time someone's getting to me, they've probably hit 3 or 4 brick walls. Like, they've probably felt stuck and frustrated, and so I need to just know that you're probably coming at me if you've got a concern, already escalated. And so you just gotta meet them where they're at, listen, call them back, pick up the phone, and half the time it's like, "Ooh, sorry, I actually didn't think you were going to call me back after I left that message."
You get that.
So you just
You
got
get
to
that.
put it in context.
Oh, you called.
Yeah,
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
good.
it's good.
Yeah, and also I wanted to add that I was always thought I don't have thick enough skin to do this job. There's no way I've got thick enough skin. We all have thick enough skin to do this job. Sometimes it gets uncomfortable, but after a bit, there are some hard conversations, but after you've had a couple, you're good. You're good. You can do, the next one's easier. And I wanted to say that all the comments that you see, the keyboard warriors and the loudest voice in the room is never usually the majority of opinion or the correct one. And so the reality of what TV is, or sorry, I'm showing my age, the social medias, the comments, the trolls, the rhetoric, whatever it may be, is not reality. I want to assure everyone that, because seeing that and then stepping into like running for office, door knocking, all the things. When I ran for office, my neighbor was my jokingly my campaign manager, my runner that ran with me. She knocked on my door and she's like, "Are you ready yet?" And I'm like, "No, let's do it tomorrow." "Are you ready today?" "No." It's like popping Tums and all the things, and I was terrified. And I was terrified to knock on doors. And I never knocked on doors for anything. And so the second door I knocked on, they asked for a sign. And I was like, "Oh my God, I don't even have signs, right? I'm gonna get a sign now." So it's not as terrifying as it is. It's really something that people aren't as bad as they portray themselves to be online.
Nice. That's good. Okay, can you share an example of a specific policy or project where your perspective as a woman fundamentally changed the outcome of the discussion?
Ooh,
I know, I would struggle with this one.
me too.
I can give an example that's not mine, but it's one that I've often used. So I'm going to get the year wrong, 2010, shortly after the tsunami that had happened in off the coast of the Pacific, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities had donated a large sum of money to some of the municipalities that were affected, particularly, I can't remember the exact city, but they had gone over, a bunch of the FCM members had traveled there to see what impact the money had had, and in the discussions with the council there, had discovered there was a small leftover fund. They'd done all of the stuff that they wanted to do, and they had this small pot of money. And the council was, I don't know how many, but all men except for one woman. And so they're having this conversation about what with the FCM members, what are you going to do with this extra money, and all these good ideas. Oh, maybe laptops for the school, or maybe we'll get megaphones so that, you know, if there's a flood again, then we can, you know, we can be more portable about telling people where to go. And the one woman in the room said, "You know what? It would be really nice if we could have running water in the nursery." And everyone kind of looked at her and went, "We don't have running water in the nursery?" "No, we don't. If this is enough money, could we do that?" And everybody on council was like, "Of course we're going to do that, yes." So they passed the appropriate motions, they put water in the nursery. Had there not been a woman there whose experience was taking care of babies in the nursery, that need would have been unnoticed.
Yeah.
Not unvalued, not desired to support, but just not aware. And so having people at the table, and you kind of referenced this earlier, with very different perspectives and very different experiences allows a decision-making body, be it a council or a province or a federal government or a board of governors or a board of directors, to make better decisions because they have more information in front of them. And so if you look at council and go, "I don't look like them, so I shouldn't be there," that's the exact reason you should be there, because 100%. You will help them make better decisions by being at the table.
None of those people are me. I should run.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, that was basically my next question. There's a bit of, like, there's some research that says 30% representation is sort of that tipping point where women's interests are represented. And so I don't know if you have experiences. This council has almost exactly that, right?
30. Yep.
So is there, in your experience, does the culture in the council chamber feel like women's interests are being represented?
This is a tough one, because I know there's been conversations that we've had over, like, crossing guards, and there was conversations about how those are funded, and just as anecdotal was parent council in schools. Well, they're fundraising for tissues and cleaning supplies. They're not fundraising for crossing guards. It's a little out of the budget. But that was a conversation that happened. That was just a conversation at the table. And I think that oddly enough, there's a lot of strife in politics right now, and there's a lot of at each other's throats. But I think on our council, I think we've got some pretty good communication and some respect at the table. So I don't think there's ever been that kind of deep, like, male, like women issues, man issue argument at the table that I remember.
Yeah, it was last term.
I know, that It was absolutely last term. I wasn't part of last term, but I've heard stories.
Yeah, but in general,
Oh dear.
but in general too, like there's a different dynamic of how people communicate or
Yeah,
value
and it doesn't probably matter men, women,
No,
it's just the
no.
dynamic of the people
Yeah.
in the room.
Yeah.
There is a lot of research that suggests that women do approach conversations differently. There's a greater impression or a greater interest in collaboration. There's a greater interest in consensus building. And that impacts, especially with a small group like a council of Barrie size, that can really strongly impact the dynamics at the table. And so if you have more people who are looking to build that consensus, you have more people who are willing to listen and find those areas of collaboration, then you're going to have a different feel at the table. So the fact that you have 30% at the table gives you that space, right? But again, that's that piece of, sometimes it's personalities as well. But there's a lot of research that shows that that's where that tipping point is.
We're more fun at the table.
You and I?
Yeah. I didn't know her. Like I met her in passing, but I didn't know her before I sat at that table.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's the point. Is it's great from advocacy about getting women to run. So I don't want to minimize that at all, and to ask and engage and to open doors. And however we show up, but it is. I'm enjoying this term of council because we have been able to make really beautiful progress, and we've done that through collaboration, but I think part of it has also been everyone has been interested, I think, in understanding each other. And so you don't take things at face value necessarily. You probe, you start to understand intent, you pick up the phone and have a conversation about something. So you usually have a pretty good sense, although you should be open to deliberation during council and committees. But there's a lot of time between finalizing something that you're talking about, and so I think it's allow people to get to know you, get to know them, because it doesn't become about a personal offense. Then it becomes about an understanding of, oh, I shouldn't be surprised that they feel really passionate about this because I have very strong values around health in certain areas. Yeah. And so usually I don't think it's me being a woman. I think it's me coming to the table with a personal value set that sometimes transfers through what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
It's always important I always say it's always important to argue the issue, not the person.
Yeah.
Because my opinion's this, so I'm going to argue about my opinion on this, but I'm not going to say you're wrong, and this is the reason why you're wrong, and you're a bad person because you're wrong. It's you really are discussing your opinion about your lens or how you see or whatever it is about the issue, and not the person that's bringing it forward. That's really important. Keeps things copacetic and conversations going, and
you have an accountability not to be someone that uses your seat as opportunity to be vindictive
or abrasive,
right? And so I think you need to be prepared to show up in that professional way.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked a lot about running for city council, but we're doing this tonight because civic engagement is voter turnout is very low. Volunteerism is at a historic low in Canada. So what are some things that we can do to reverse these sort of these trends that lead people to not be engaged? And do you think there is a role for public libraries in this? I mean, obviously we're all here. But.
Go ahead.
The role for public library, when we talk about social infrastructure and the importance of social infrastructure, libraries are beautiful hubs, right? And so I think when we talk about general engagement, there's a huge movement happening even through the World Health Organization around reducing loneliness and isolation. And so I think if anything that can contribute people coming up to vote is starting to care about feeling connected to your community and a little bit more impassioned about knowing that your voice matters. And so I think sometimes we boil the ocean down to proportional representation and, vote means a certain percentage and It doesn't matter because I don't feel it's going to carry, because it's not someone who might be popular enough to win the vote. And so I think people look at winning or losing as a way in which to rationalize engagement. And I think your voice matters not even in an election, but every day throughout. So, I mean, whether that's giving back your time, find something you care about, connect with people that you haven't seen in a while, do that in community, pick up the phone. And I think then you just start, I get to know people with amazing backgrounds and experiences I never would have known, just because I asked a couple of different questions and I spent 5 extra minutes being present and slowing down my life and enjoying someone's company versus, just being on the move. And so I think it's just find something you love. It can be a committee, it can just be a conversation, it can be spending time in your library, volunteering for your library. But I think we all have things we care about, so it's easy in this city with so many resources to be able to step into a space that can connect you to something where you feel like your time is valued and you can make a difference in someone's life.
Sure. I think the third spaces, which is a term that I've learned, spaces like this are incredibly important because politics today, what you see, the TV version, the reality TV version of what politics is, you don't have to have that at the table. And I think that part of the reason, and this is totally anecdotal, I think that the reason why we have this kind of toxic environment, I'm not talking cross-border, I'm talking about communities, is because we've lost community and we don't see each other anymore. We see each other as like an adversary or an opinion as opposed to a person. And there's a lot of gray in that. So I think that seeing people and talking to people in person and getting to know people is a huge antidote to changing the way the narrative is about how people talk to each other and how people look at our neighbors and our friends, and they're not the bad guy and they're not conservative or liberal or whatever it may be. They're having their own lives and dealing with their own problems and issues. And I think that the more that we have community spaces and we get in front of each other and talk to each other as people as opposed to a profile or a comment online, then I think that's when the conversation really starts to change. And the fact that we don't, and of course anecdotally, I believe that the reason we don't have voter turnout is because people have turned it off in their head, because all they see is this nastiness, and they don't want to hear it. How many people just say, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear it, because it's just nasty all the time. And we need to get to know people in real life, IRL, as opposed to what we have in these spaces like libraries and their community centers and parks, and all these things are so important to get people to know each other. And I think when community starts coming together more, I think you're going to see a lot more engagement in politics, because I think a lot of people have just checked out because of what toxicity there is now. And the fact that no one realizes the problems I have every day, and they don't understand, and floor crossers and this and that and all the different conversations that happen. But the truth is we're all in this together, and we really need to get together to kind of change that and get people involved. And there was an election in Quebec that had municipal election a few months back, and I think it was like 12% voter turnout, and we're complaining about 33. So we really need to change how we look at communities, because our leaders need to be accountable, and we need to be able to vote for them and get involved in this and not be afraid to start it in the conversation by talking to your friends and neighbors.
So when that candidate knocks on your door over the summer, take 5 minutes.
Yep.
And at least start a conversation and take something more than just the pamphlet that they've got, or create a space to kind of get your neighbors together and have a talk. Even if you don't end up feeling inspired to vote, I would challenge you on that, but mobilize your neighborhood too, or have conversations about what do we care about? What's happening in our neighborhood? And just start having those listening conversations. And I think if it doesn't end up translating to a candidate, you've connected with your neighborhood, you've found shared values, you have the power to influence whether or not you're at the city council table.
Absolutely.
I think that idea of being curious about the people around you and why they believe what they believe. Like that's I think a very powerful tool for civic engagement. And it doesn't have to be, politically, you don't have to wait till there's a candidate coming and knock on your door. Have a front yard party and put a note in each of your neighbors' doors and say, Sunday afternoon I'm going to be on my front porch, come stop by and say hi. And then if they say something that you disagree with, don't get upset, just say why. Why do you think that way? Tell me how you got to where you got to, because I don't see it that way, and I'm curious about your pathway to there. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
And that curiosity, thank you Ted Lasso for that quote of don't be judgmental, be curious, I think is fabulous in this day and age, because it doesn't, their opinion will not really hugely affect you directly. But understanding their opinion and where it comes from can change the entire way that our society connects to each other. And I think that's really key.
Yeah, your neighbor's not your enemy.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, I remember putting
Depends
up
on
the
your
block
neighbor.
parent sign, right?
Most likely.
When I was a kid. And there was pride to that, because it was like, oh, Mom, like, what does this mean? And it's like, well, if someone's in trouble, they know that they can knock on the door and we're a safe place. And those are the little things, right? And now it even expands to, safety for seniors, and not just senior-friendly communities, all age-friendly communities. And so you can shift a momentum and shift a conversation to things that you really care about, and it fits somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for one more thing, and then we're going to go to some audience questions. And I know everybody brought some books to share. So the question is to share one book that every aspiring leader should read. But you guys didn't limit to one. We're having like a little bit of what you guys got here.
An entire library to choose from. You want me to pick one?
How to read them.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the one that
She lent this to me.
a
Very
good,
good. Yeah.
a good book when I've got notes and flags in it.
One of my favorites too.
It's so good.
So good.
So one, talk about libraries, but two, the Palaces for the People talks about how social infrastructure can help fight inequity, polarization, and the decline of civic life, by Eric Kleinberg. And so I love this because it actually talks a bit about how well some communities have done in like really dire situations. So because heat waves, right, where you're seeing, in one example in the States, a heat wave, and those that might be affluent but living alone and not really connected to communities don't have anyone checking in on them and actually become more vulnerable, versus how people mobilize around sharing resources in a time of crisis. And the strength of that community to just mobilize and support and actually be really resilient through, where you would assume they'd be the worst off. But basically it talks a bit about those places where people gather. So whether that's micro communities within a city, whether that's your libraries, it starts the conversation to really make sure you value those things that you might take for granted because of the role that they have around how they bring people together. And I think of libraries as like the best equalizer. There's no stigma attached to walking through these doors. You can do everything from literacy to First Mums programming to be a creator. Like you can basically walk through and be your true self in this space and find someone likely with a similar interest. But it's a sense of belonging. And so when people have that, it becomes this gravitational force. And sometimes, if you think about how we place value on things and what they cost to operate, and you get people in positions of making judgments, you've been before council, right?
Yep.
You've been asked very thorough questions. But just assume that, things that you think are safe in your community, I'm sure there'll come a time where you'll have different opinions and things have swung around the appetite of the public or the appetite of elected officials to really focus in on things. And so some things can become more vulnerable over time, and I've found it's really important to try to make sure I'm a good ally and champion for those things that are about where community gathers.
Yeah, and you're right, it's not necessarily always about the actual dollar cost of something, but the social value that those pieces bring, and that's definitely good to know for sure. you want to share some of
Did
these?
you want to?
I sure did.
No, because I didn't say you should have, but you did. You brought that.
I did, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Get credit where
My
credit's
copy
due.
has little things all in it too.
I brought, because this was Politics for Women event, so I decided to bring something to make all the women angry. Invisible Women, Data Bias in a World Designed by Men, and it really is a background in how language and just systems have absolutely been built from a male lens because women historically have not been at the table, and how important it is for, and that's not to say by design, but just happenstance of who historically leaders have been. So it's important to recognize those things and see the vulnerabilities and the holes that need to be plugged with these issues. So this is why you should run. And I also, the second one is Presence by Amy Cuddy. And this is what's going to give you the confidence to run. It's a really fun book, and it gives you a lot of tricks and things to kind of build that confidence, some mind tricks to get yourself to be confident and brave, and all the things to step into that role.
I love Invisible Women as well. I think it's one of those great books that shows that the impact of bringing women to the table can have on the entire society. So
Improvements for all.
Yeah, there's the phrase that a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And the idea that if you bring more people to the table and make better decisions, there's actually better decisions for everybody, from social impact and economic impact and the benefits that all come from that. So that book is actually really good at sort of walking you through that and giving you really hard examples of that. So I really like that book too. I have a couple, there's one that I don't have with me, but I really enjoy and I'm going to share that as well. I have one called Teardown by Dave Meslin. For anyone who looks at the Canadian system and goes, oh my, there's so much that needs to be changed and fixed, and how do we ever change it? This is like the Bible for how to change it. This is the handbook, the guidebook for these are all of these things that you can do, from small little things that we could change at the council level, all the way through to suggestions for giant overhauls to the entire system. So, and really easy to read. Like he's a speech writer. He's been a lobbyist. He's a grassroots organizer. He's done a lot in the political realm. And so he gives a really good, easy to understand approach to it. So I recommend that.
He was here, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was here a few years ago. Yeah, I was here. Dancing Backwards, a social history of Canadian women in politics, understanding where we came from and how our society has changed over the years is really interesting. And then the one, if you want a fun book to read about politics, because there's a lot of doom and gloom and craziness, Terry Fallis wrote The Best Laid Plans and The High Road and a couple of others. And it is one of the funniest, most accurate perspectives of a campaign that goes totally wrong, but then wins.
And Terry was also a municipal library.
And he was also, that book won the Stephen Leacock Award for Humor. So if you have a chance to read it and you just want to I'm curious about this whole politics thing and how does it work? It focuses more on at the federal level, but it is brilliantly written, it's very funny, and the discussions in there about campaigning are really accurate. Like this is what happens behind the scenes, so it's kind of fun. So those are my recommendations.
Thank you, awesome. I love that you guys brought props. We have books. Thanks. Okay, did you want to do some audience questions?
Sure. So we got all the audience questions from folks. We don't have any more. Okay, I'm kind of trying to put them together, see what we've already tackled, and see what we haven't. So apologies if your particular one isn't gotten. But there were 3 or 4 that were kind of around how to get involved. So there's one, how to get involved in campaigning. And then there's how to get involved if you don't specifically want to run, but you want to get active in other ways. So maybe how to get involved in campaigning. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do campaigning. All right. We're going to focus on municipal because federal and provincial is totally different beast, similar but different. So if you want to get involved in campaigning and you don't want to run yourself, pay attention to who registers to run. So the city of Barrie, which starts tomorrow?
No,
tomorrow?
Starts
First.
tomorrow.
Which
That's
is
tomorrow.
Tomorrow's first.
Today's the 31st? No.
30. There's only 30 days in April.
See, you told me to be qualified.
So, in order to run, someone has to go ahead and get 25 signatures of people who live in the city of Barrie to say, yes, we think this person should run. And they go to the city council, they go to the clerk's office, they sign up, saying, yes, I want to do this, they pay their fee, $100.
Yeah, you have to go to the clerk's office to pick up the package.
Pick up the package, they get everyone to sign it, they put their $100. Anyways, they submit it to the clerk, and they post it on the website to say, this is who's running. So if there is somebody in your ward, or who's running for mayor, or is not in your ward, but in a ward that you're interested in, that you want to support, or you don't know anything about them, their contact details will be on that website. And you can reach out to them and say, hey, tell me what you're about. And then you can decide at that point if you want to help them and volunteer. In volunteering in a campaign, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do. So you can door knock, which means you go out with the candidate or without the candidate, with your little brochure, you knock on the door and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm here for this person who's running for ward, whatever. Would you be interested in supporting them? That's all you have to do. It's scary as it is scary.
Oh yeah, no, it's not scary. It's not scary if scary gets started.
It's scary to get started. I have door knocked for 20 years now, off and on. The first door still scares the snot out of me. Absolutely. Scares me, absolutely. And I go, come on, kid. But anyway, once you get through the first door, it's fun. Trust me. It's just conversation after conversation after conversation. And if there's a mean person, you know what you can do? Walk away. Thank you. And so there's door knocking. There's signs, so you can install signs because people support your candidates. You'll get requests for signs, and there'll be a whole team to go out and put signs in. You will probably be asked if you would like to call. So there's usually a phone process of calling potential supporters and saying, hey, would you consider fundraising if you're good at holding events? If you want to just invite the candidate to your backyard and invite other neighbors so they can meet people. What else am I missing? There's design processes because people need to help, like most candidates need help designing their pamphlets and designing their signs, and all of that. Monitoring social media, finding places for them to go speak, going with them when they're going to go speak at an event so they have somebody there to support them as well. Volunteer barbecues, because you always want to support and help your volunteers. Going out and asking people to donate to the campaign. There are myriad ways to support the candidate that you choose. Did I miss anything?
And you can just ask.
Yes.
Ask the candidate.
Absolutely. And the candidates who have run before will have different like sort of subgroups or little committees that people might be on. People who haven't run before may not be quite as organized, and so they
just wing it.
An organizer. You can help them with that. Planning where you're going to go, when you're going to go. There's all kinds of stuff behind the scenes that happens. So there's tons of space to support.
Yeah. And you choose, right? Like wanting to commit to someone doesn't mean you can't help someone else either, right? So it's a great way to know a candidate too, but I can't like give them a high five. Is it give them 5 hours of your time? Donate $5. Tell 5 people. Like a post 5 times. You know, do things that just in an accumulation of that by others is a huge support to any candidate, especially someone who's going at it for the first time.
Yes.
Or tell remind people there's an election going on. You want to support a candidate, like literally turn around to the person next to you on the bus or in your coffee shop or whatever. Hey, did you know there's an election coming up? Who do you thought who you're going to vote for? The number of people who are like, there's a what? When? Who?
It shows
What's going on? It's one of the reasons why there's 30%, especially at the municipal level, because you generally don't get the same level of media coverage nationally, which everyone is watching, right? On TV or on social media. You don't get the buys from the various parties because there are no parties at the municipal level. So there's that piece of it. You don't get as much of the push out of advertising and marketing that you do at the other level. So having those simple conversations, if you're not ready to support a candidate, quote unquote, just talk about it. Share the information.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, thank you. So this one is a good one, I think, for everyone to know, as there's more communication channels than ever. How would you recommend engaging with our local city councilors? What methods are the most effective? So maybe Indiana or a good one.
The easiest way for me is email or text. That's the easiest for me. And you know what, it depends on the candidate. So other candidates will prefer phone, pick it up every time. But email usually gets whoever you're trying to contact.
Yeah, like engaging now, you get hit everywhere. So I think it's, if you don't get a response, try a different pathway or just keep going, because like you don't have personal assistants. You don't have like you're doing all of it.
It's you.
It's you.
You're an office of one.
I get some photos like, oh, can I speak to Councillor Courser? And you're like, oh, are you at the office? I'm like, I'm at my kitchen table. That's my office. Yeah.
But if you're trying to reach a candidate who's starting and it's a campaign, then just see how you can make it, like, leave a message, but don't assume that they're not interested in connecting with you.
Yeah.
They're literally on the run.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah,
it
well,
can
it's
be.
busy.
It is. It can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So be patient and follow up.
Yeah, but I would say, like in general, I think usually there's a hold. So let's say I was running again, like hypothetically. I can't use my city email or my city phone to respond to you. Or if I was going to run. So you've got to separate the two. So if you are looking to get connected, to ask questions about running and just that, you know, people can respond. If you start reaching out to a city councillor and you're going through their city communications, you might not get a response from that. You need to find their personal or their campaign material once it's posted. And that then gets published online. So,
but those communication pieces will be published on the
city
form
website
that they've submitted to say they're running again.
Yeah.
So you can look there and say, okay, if I want to talk to them on the election side, then that's how I do. And then if you want to talk to them still while they're running, they're still a sitting councillor. So if there's an issue with the pothole at the bottom of the street or whatever it happens to be, you can still contact them on their city communication line about that.
Yeah.
You just can't like say, hey, I'm a supporter and want to give you a check for $50 on there, because they won't call you.
But
Not on that one.
Yeah. But in general, if you are trying to reach out to someone running and you see that maybe they're running for the first time, assume that they are fully like consumed by just trying to run their own campaign, or maybe with very little budget or very little support until they start getting more volunteers. So if you can help early, just to help people get up to the door, like knowing that someone is running is probably the biggest piece around just helping. Like going to the door takes a lot of time and is very important in my opinion. But I can spend half an hour at one door to answer questions, and it's getting dusk and people don't want to be disturbed at dinner, and so even if you don't get to know me hypothetically that well, but you feel like you want to help, then pick up 100 pamphlets, stuff them in mailboxes, and help people know that they can then reach out. So the biggest piece is help to kind of create a platform for residents to know who's running, and then they will have their information in hand to reach out. But usually the campaign information is what you really want to get out to people about how you can reach me, where you can reach me, what's my why for running, and then hitting all the doors in your community. It takes a while. Yeah.
Does it ever?
Okay, we're gonna have this. I don't know if is Maya still here, or was that Maya that just left? Maya is 7 years old.
Yay!
Oh.
So I don't know if that was Maya that just left.
Maybe.
Okay.
But Maya's question is, why did we decide to change the world, and why did we decide to go to this meeting? So why don't we end up?
That's great. That's cute.
Well, I'm trying to change the world.
We live in a pretty great.
Maya thinks you are.
That's really
sweet.
I think it's because I'm a point in time. I see it as service. I don't own my seat. I don't. But you show up, and I believe in kind of like the ripple effect, right? And so you change a conversation, you change someone's feelings about what's the art of the possible. You can, help to kind of feel like you're invested in your community. For me, that gives me satisfaction. That fills my cup. It's worth my time. That I try to live with no regrets, and so I will knock on doors and see which doors open, and then my pathway has never been a linear one around having a plan and executing on the plan and having to work out for me every time.
Even when you do, the plan goes
I blow it up.
As someone who did try to have the plan.
Yeah. So I think it is why this meeting, because we learned a lot, I would say, and I probably hold information that might be helpful to you for thinking about it. So I'm approachable, hopefully, if you're thinking about it, if you want to have a conversation. I will be extremely candid with you. I love the role, but I come with different situational factors. So I've had meetings with lots of men and women about what does it take to not just run a campaign, but then to live in this role for 4 years, right? So it's a commitment. And so feeling good about that, your time is precious. And so I think if this is something that you have a heartbeat towards, then I'm happy to have a conversation with you about how, what the reality is like day in and day out, what's actually the workload, what's the commitment, what are the pressure points. But it's really worth it.
Nice.
Yeah.
She made me.
And we're lucky for it.
I know. You listen to me. Yeah. I think the reason why I decided to do this was when I finally actually got the gumption to actually do it, was because I was asking a lot of why. Well, why'd they do that? Well, that doesn't, they sound like a very, like, they didn't think of this, or all the things I was seeing and reading really kind of confused me about decisions that were made. And a lot of them, when I got to the table, there was a lot of, oh, that's why I see the bigger picture, or wait a second, no, let's have a conversation because this doesn't sound right. So I think that there was a lot of that curiosity that was part of the reason, and I actually have, it's so odd for me to say this because it's uncomfortable for me to say this, but I think I kind of have a gift for connecting with people.
You do?
And,
Absolutely.
and making people feel, as coming as a politician, like I
May have been why I kept telling you to
Yeah,
run.
maybe.
Just saying.
because I don't like I always joke with my friends. Don't you know who I am? Like I don't ever want anyone to feel that I'm overly important than they are, and it's so important for people in a leadership position to have that connection with people. And I always want to make sure that people can know that wherever you're at is a good place to connect with somebody in leadership or somebody. You should be able to reach out no matter what. I always say, and if I don't know, I can find somebody who does. I just like that open door policy. And the reason why I came tonight is, again, to show that it doesn't matter your background, you absolutely can run for office and you absolutely can win. You do not need to have alphabet soup behind your name. You do not need to have any kind of special background. You just need to be funding. There was 2 people, me and my neighbor, knocked on all the doors, did all the things. We didn't have any volunteers or anything. It was just me and my neighbor. So you can do it, and I don't want anyone to think that they can't because, put up a mental barrier about this or that. Trust me, if I'm sitting here, you can too. There's no way that you couldn't. So that's why I'm here. Go.
I started this because I love learning and I love sharing the learning with people. So the fact that I have information that seemed interesting to people, I'm like, I can share that. I can tell people about that. And I have a lot of fun doing it. I think if you talk to my students, my former students, they'd probably say the same thing. And why am I here tonight? Because somebody asked.
Yeah.
And you want to go right back to the beginning.
Yep. Somebody asked.
Yep.
We're going to
So
say yes.
if you're gonna
appreciate that.
Somebody asked.
So here's my challenge. If you're thinking of running, ask the questions you need to ask. But if you aren't interested in running, but you see someone that you think would be a really good person in politics, whatever level, ask them to run. Tell them you think they're a really great person to do that. You may be the first person to tell them. You may be the 10th person to tell them. But that may be the 10th person they need for them to go, well, if this many people think I'm good at it, or I would be good at it, maybe I should investigate. And then you end up with 2 fantastic counselors who end up doing the work.
Because enough people bug you,
know,
you'll finally say yes.
But that's that piece. So go ask. Because if you ask, eventually someone says yes.
Yeah. Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
When you ask, if you know you really want to be deliberate about asking someone, then start a conversation that just doesn't become that's ridiculous, or like that's the beginning and the end of the conversation. Instead, have a conversation that really be mindful about what you think they can offer to the role, and say, hey, like you are really strong in this area, and I love how you're able to facilitate, like bring people together and being that connector, and you've done so much for community in this space. Have you thought about what you could potentially do or impact if you were around the council table. Because then people start to understand that you can see them in that space. It's not just a flippant compliment about, hey, you're great, you should run. It's about like, what about them do you want them to start thinking about applying themselves into that space?
That's true. To be able to actually see yourself in the role is a really important thing.
And what are you willing to support them in doing that? So if they come up with the reasons, because especially as women, we come up with all the reasons why we can't, because we have kids and we have parents and we have jobs and we have all of this other stuff that we're trying to manage and we're trying to do. And as an individual that thinks that person is going to be a fantastic counselor, turning to them and saying, you know what do you need? What do you need to say yes? That's a really powerful question, right? What do you need from me? What do you need from your community to say yes? Well, I need someone to help me with my kids. All right, I can come over and pick them up after school every day so you don't have to worry about that. Or I need someone to help me with my mom who's struggling with whatever. Well, I can put you in contact with all of the different organizations in Barrie that can support you with that. Or I need someone to tell me how this works. Well, I can put you in touch with us.
Yes.
To say they will have a conversation with you about how to do this. So have those, oh no, I couldn't possibly. Ooh, me? No, really. No, seriously, you. What does it look like for you to be successful, for you to do that? I think it's powerful.
I think we have high expectations, right? Like women have high expectations of self. So
Yes.
I think it's, don't be your own ceiling.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
And find your community. And so
Yeah.
again, for me, I just started to verbalize it. And then people just started to be curious about, are you serious? And in the end, it was Larry at Marty's Cafe, where I would go in every morning before work. And he said, I want you to come back here tomorrow morning, and I'm going to have information for you, and we're going to sit down and have a conversation with us. And he basically was like, okay, what's the reality bites? If there's an incumbent, what you might need for money, what you might want to do, what is your strategy, how can I help? But basically someone who took you seriously and basically said, I'm here to have a safe conversation with you about how to help you think through what your next steps are, and if you're going to be deliberate, where you might want to start. Yeah.
And as you mentioned, if anyone in the room wants to have that conversation, I am an open door. Like, reach out, because I'd be more than willing to tell you what it's like on a daily, what I did what the steps you need to go, like go to the clerk's office, pick up a package, and things. Just email me. Well, yeah, email me's best. Just email me or text me, and I will please, and I will definitely reach out, because I'll lay out everything that I had to do and the steps involved that I know.
There's no secret sauce.
Any questions about politics in general, you can shoot them to me.
Yes.
Because I tell all my students there is no such thing as a stupid question except the one you didn't ask.
I ask all the stupid questions.
You ask all
Proudly
the questions.
proudly ask.
Ask all the questions.
Yeah.
Ask them.
Yeah.
Important.
And I learn a lot.
By sitting next to her and giving the answers. But she'll ask it.
Oh, come on. Yeah, it is. I love the job. It's a great job.
Yes.
I see it as service, and so you don't have to have a resume. I think you have to have intention, and you have to know that you're not alone in it, and you find your people that will support you, and you can have like honest, open-hearted conversations about it. But I think that's with everything in life, is nothing is perfect, and you don't have to go into it slated with
Knowing everything.
Yeah, knowledge. I think you just need to enjoy learning and being comfortable to be okay with, not being right all the time, and being curious and asking for help.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Thank you.
it's a great job.
I really appreciate you guys being so candid and, answering all the questions, and for saying yes to coming out. I really appreciate that.
Well, I would always say yes to you.
Yeah.
I knew they were going to say yes before I even
I
asked.
have to. I'm on the board.
Okay, well, that's a good example of having diverse voices in the room. It would never occur to me to give flowers to our guests. So Teddy Brash, our programming librarian, very kindly gave flowers to our guests today. How you doing? This morning? Yeah, she did a great job. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Oh,
for
thank you,
coming.
thank you.
Sorry if these are wet.
Oh, that's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you all for coming. That was fantastic. Thank you all for coming. And a round of applause for our guests.
For Simcoe Community Media, I am Deepak Bidwai. This story was supported by the Local Journalism Initiative.